on Sky News. Now, later on this week, a new documentary will be airing on Channel 4, which will reveal details of allegations of child sexual abuse against the singer Michael Jackson. It's entitled Leaving Neverland, and it sparked a re-examination of the musician's legacy. Some fans have questioned whether it's acceptable to continue to play his music in light of these allegations. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the owner of MJVibe.com, Pez Jax, and the music journalist Cherie Amour, who is live in Whitstable this morning. Good morning to you both. It's interesting, a lot of journalists have already seen this documentary. It's aired in the United States, causing huge controversy. It airs on Channel 4 tomorrow night and Thursday night. And I'm just looking at some of the coverage from these journalists, Pez. The director of the documentary said this could be America's Jimmy Savile moment. The Telegraph questioning this morning, when it comes to sexual abuse, has music always turned a blind eye?
No, I would say it hasn't. I think from what you can see from the coverage so far, it's been a very one-sided discussion. A balanced discussion isn't being had about this whole situation. I think in light of the conversation about banning his music, absolutely not. I don't think, based on this film, there should be calls to mute or ban his music. If we do, it sets a very kind of obscure precedent for how we handle accusations of abuse. We need to be sure that we're opening up the discussion to look at all sides and not just making almost a sort of censorship based on a one-sided conversation.
Cherie, what are your views on this in terms of, I mean, Michael Jackson, a decade after his death, he remains the third best-selling music artist of all time. There's going to be a very interesting choice to be made by a lot of his fans, and there are millions of them across the globe, after they watch this documentary, by the sounds of it.
Absolutely, and it's interesting you talk about dialogue, because I think exactly the same. You know, the BBC has explained that they consider each piece of music with a relevant audience and context in mind, and we have to look at the social context that these allegations are being presented in. You know, it's a far wider problem of historical airbrushing and that kind of toxic male genius. He's idolised by millions. He's within people's record collections across the globe. There's a stage musical set for Broadway in 2020. I think the important thing is to have that dialogue about what to do with an artist beyond cancelling and you know, sure, we can boycott and not financially contribute to bad men's art, but it still exists. And as you say, you know, we need to learn how to navigate that.
It's interesting, isn't it, Pez, because these are allegations.
Yes.
A lot of Michael Jackson fans pointing out to me on social media this morning that, you know, he is not here to defend themselves.
Absolutely.
And at this stage, these are allegations. They're going to be very difficult to prove because Michael Jackson has passed away. But in terms of listening to his music, people now hearing these allegations, do you think people will have to make a choice?
I don't think they do. I think when you talk about Michael's music, you're talking about the songs that we all know and grew up with, as in Bad and Billie Jean and Thriller and Beat It.
Soundtrack of a generation.
Absolutely. But within that catalogue is also songs like Money, Tabloid Junkie, This Time Around, DS, Scream, where Michael spoke about the allegations against him, where he spoke about what it was like to be accused of being a child molester, and he spoke very openly about everything that happened to him. And I think, you know, to sort of say, let's just mute him, it kind of takes away that voice as well. And instead of just focusing on all the songs that we enjoy, we should also look at the rest of the catalogue and what he says there.
Well, the journalist points out today, maybe we should listen to the lyrics of Human Nature in terms of, you know, that's some very uncomfortable lyrics in this kind of context.
Well, I've seen that this morning as well. You know, I saw a comment that Man in the Mirror now suggests a plea of guilt. And I think that's ridiculous. He didn't even write Human Nature. He didn't write Man in the Mirror either. You know, it's like how... I know there's been calls to separate the man from the art, and I don't agree with that. I think the man is his art, and I think as those songs I mentioned before, which speak about these allegations, those are the songs that people should be listening to in the context of this discussion.
I mean, we've seen this happen, haven't we, Cherie, with R. Kelly, the whole Mute R. Kelly movement. Again, a documentary's been made, allegations against him. Nothing's been proven. You know, he's been to court on allegations before and been found not guilty. He's going through the system again, yet there's been this whole movement where his music is pretty much airbrushed from streaming sites, radio playlists. So there is a precedent for this.
This is it. I think it's one example against a far larger issue in music. You know, look at the recent cases with Bryan Adams as well, with 7 women going on record. Documentary maker Dan Reed, he did comment saying he's not trying to take down a pop cultural icon, but he's telling a story about sexual abuse that he felt needed to be told. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how that's kind of played out in the documentary.
Some of you have been getting in touch this morning with your views on whether we should mute Michael Jackson. Let's have a look at this tweet from Stuart. He says, I have to say, yes. The same with R. Kelly. Gary Glitter was binned off as well. As a DJ, I have so many requests for the above mentioned, except Gary Glitter. And although they are proper party tunes, inside, I'm saying no. Grant White, however, tweets this. The allegations were thrown out of court on more than one occasion. Those involved in this documentary are considered as liars, inconsistent with the truth. The documentary interviews no one else as balance, Pez, which is obviously something that you point out.
Absolutely.
I just wonder if there's a wider question to be asked about the music industry. The film industry has been going through the same examination of itself in terms of it's a world of glamour, anything goes, and people can pretty much get away with whatever they like. In the current climate, no, they can't. So retrospectively, artists are being looked at, and artists that are with us now and making music now are being held to higher standards.
Absolutely, but I think, you know, what we need to look at is the context of all of this. We can't just decide somebody's guilt based on social media, and that's what's happening at the moment. The court of public opinion has made a decision based on a one-sided documentary, and they're running with that. And I think what we need to look at is saying, OK, what's going to happen next? We need to allow the Jackson family and the Jackson estate to say what they're going to do next. When you have both sides of the argument, then you can make a decision on whether you want to ban his music or mute his music or not. But it's not fair to suggest that we just kind of put someone in a box, throw away the key because we've only had one side of the conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Well, obviously, the Michael Jackson estate is denying all allegations against him. Ryan Adams, who I know Sherry mentioned earlier on, is denying all the allegations against him as well. It's very important to say that these are allegations, but the current climate, as I mentioned at the moment, Sherry, means that those who feel they have something to say and something has happened to them, they feel able to speak out. And that's a good thing, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, the long-term impacts of, you know, sexual abuse are devastating. So to come forward at all is painful. You know, it can feel impossible, let alone doing that against a public figure. I think you're right that it's interesting to see the ties with the Me Too movement and against this backdrop of kind of toxic masculinity. It's not always an easy subject to broach.
It's interesting. Will you be listening to Michael Jackson in the same way? Will you continue to listen to his music? I grew up with him. I went to see him on the Bad Tour and the Thriller Tour, and I was a huge fan.
Yeah, and it's the same for all of these artists, and I think it's problematic. And no, I'm not sure I will listen to him in the same way.
Pez?
Of course I will. I will continue to listen to him because, as I say, I know one side of the conversation, this film presents another. And so based on the evidence that we have and the facts that are out there, especially when it comes to the two in the film, you know, there's a proven case that they've defended Michael for years. Wade Robson went on the stand and defended Michael Jackson under oath, saying that nothing happened. But for me, I feel that the real victims in this are people like Macaulay Culkin and Brett Barnes, who for years have said that they weren't abused, and everybody tells them that they are. You know, yes, you are, you don't remember, you don't know. They're the real victims in this because they're being accused of being abused when they haven't been. So if we're to listen to Wade and James, we should also listen to the people that are saying they weren't abused. OK, well, it's an interesting discussion. Sharia Moore in Whitstable Forest and Pez Jax, thank you very much. The discussion, should we mute Michael Jackson in light of these allegations that you'll see on your TV screens tomorrow night and Thursday night on Channel 4? Keep your views coming in, news@sky.com. You're watching